Hey everybody, it's Mr. Sonnenberg again. I'm here to give you the next installment of one of my videos. Today we're going to talk about our new unit, Unit 4, Cell Structure and Function. We have had, since winter break, 2 classes, Monday and Tuesday, so whether you need a little extra info or you've missed some time, this will hopefully help you out. There were a couple of things we talked about in class regarding notes, and I want to go over those first. I'm going to try to make this a pretty quick video and just go over the important points. Again, stop the video at any time, rewind, fast forward if there's something that you don't feel like you need to hear. Again, this is a video that is going to be the condensed version of what we did in class. So there will be some content that you're going to miss, but the more salient points are the ones that you're going to get. 2 documents were handed out today. One is an animal cell. You can see that this one is actually filled in. So those of you that are thinking ahead, you could actually use a screenshot of this to fill in your blank diagram. This one right here is a plant cell. So typically the biggest differences that you're going to notice is an animal cell. Again, I mentioned this in class, cells come in all shapes and sizes. This is a very generalized animal cell. In fact, you'll often hear it referred to that way, a generalized animal cell. But this cell represents a multicellular animal, and this one represents a multicellular plant, an example of a multicellular plant cell. Just as an FYI, these were 2 that were handed out. The other thing that we talked about today were these 2 important points, and I'm going to actually stick to this one alone. Cells are the basic unit of structure and function in all living things. It's a simple statement, but it's important that you kind of dissect that point. Cells are the basic unit, so it's think of it as a building block. It is the, if I make a house out of Legos, the simplest building block would be that Lego piece. Whereas an atom is the smallest basic structure that we really know, other than the subatomic particles that make it up. They're not alive. So inanimate objects such as plastic tables or desks or what do you call it, the smart board in my room, the fire blanket tin, the garbage can, the floor, the ceiling, the walls, the bricks, none of these things are alive. They are made of atoms. We know that, but that's all they are. Atoms are extremely small. Atoms are made of, cells are made of atoms. And atoms are so small we can't see them. There are more atoms in a grain of sand than there are grains of sand on a beach. If I were to ask you how many atoms do you think make up my human body, it's a trick question because there's no telling how many. It's a number beyond our comprehension. But on the other hand, I could confidently say to you that I'm probably made up of about 15 trillion cells. That's a big number, that's a lot of cells, but I can more or less wrap my head around that. There's a finite number to cells. In other words, cells are a lot bigger. Some cells are big enough to see with the human eye, believe it or not. Most cells are not, but they are big. We can measure them. You could even say a typical cell is maybe a thousandth of a millimeter in length, which means that you can measure it. You can't do that with atoms. So it's important to distinguish the difference or understand the difference. But I'm getting a little sidetracked. Back to this point, that unit, a cell, is the simplest, beyond structure, it's the simplest thing that functions in the human body. It's the simplest thing that displays life. It's the simplest structure that is actually alive. There are some structures, like a euploides here that you see, that are single-celled organisms by themselves. They are what we call eukaryotic. They have nuclei. They have different structures. They're heterotrophic. They eat food rather than create it on a molecular level. We have structures right here, such as these are epithelial cells. I think I read on here that they're epithelial cells of a particular monkey. But notice the movement. They're alive. If we were to even delve deeper into this picture that you see, you would recognize that there are a lot of different things that are happening, that are moving all the time, that are alive. This right here is an example of a bacterial cell that is growing, reproducing via mitosis at an alarming rate, actually. It's time-lapse photography, but you'll notice how quickly that they reproduce and go from 1 to literally thousands. Go back to my notes page here. Cells can be either multicellular, made of many cells, or they can be unicellular, made of a single cell. Cells come in all shapes and sizes. So when I look at this, this is a general picture of a cell. If I look at this, it's a general picture of a cell. But in reality, they come in many shapes or sizes. Another page I want to go over are the differences between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. All cells fit into these two types. Prokaryotic cells are a type of cell that is small. They have no nuclei. They have ribosomes, cell wall, some genetic material, because all cells are alive and therefore have DNA. And every bacteria that you can recognize would be considered prokaryotic. Eukaryotic cells are much, much bigger. They are a lot more complex than prokaryotic cells. But here's the real key thing. They have nuclei and are very, very complex, so they have many organelles. So multicellular organisms are made up of eukaryotic cells, and then those certain single-celled organisms like the euploides I showed you in the video, those are also eukaryotic as well. The structure of an organism, another diagram that was shown in class. This is kind of how things work. A living thing is organized in this way. You put enough atoms together, you get molecules. You put enough molecules together, you get cells. You put enough of the same type of cell together, you get tissues. You put enough tissues, different types of tissues together, you get an organ. You collect different organs, and they collectively make an organ system. You put organ systems together, digestive system, cardiovascular, endocrine, integumentary, nervous system, you get an organism. These are the things that we went over in class. The next thing that we did in class, and I actually am going to pause it for and I'm back.